let's actually talk about some of the comments that we got on last week's episode. So this was from our clips channel, and a few of our clips actually got quite a lot of views. Like for this channel, right? A few hundred views is actually quite a bit for us because it's a small channel, and a lot of them got quite a few hundred views, and in particular there were two. There was like the Mark Carney one, and then the liberals saying that Canada first is alt-right clip. And let me just read you some of the comments that I got, right? So this man named John Smith M7K commented on the Canada First video. Canada First is a right-wing slogan. Absolutely. This isn't Canada. Canada is a multiracial society, and such things like ethnic nationalism, which is what this slogan is about, does not align with our identity. And I'll ask the obvious question about this. What is a real Canadian? This is actually a really hard question to answer, which is indicative of why slogans like Canada First just don't really work. And I just included a comment after that as well, because I don't want to have like a segment full of just hate comments and like bad comments. Let me just include like a good comment too. So the one after it is somebody said, WTF is with all these hate comments. Good job, boys. Got my sub. So thank you, whoever Drysdale S2Y is. Thank you for subscribing. Yeah, like there's a lot of debate on this. So maybe I'll take a break, right? Because we have a lot of time still actually for today's show. This is, I think, the last story actually. So we'll take our time with this story, and I'll take a pause and just let people respond to just kind of maybe the first comment on Mr. John Smith, who is attempting to teach a podcast full of people of color about multiracial societies. So I just found that kind of ironic, which is why I picked it. But whoever wants to respond to Mr. Smith, do you think that maybe we already answered this question a little bit in the video itself, but maybe we can elaborate on this point a little bit more. How do you respond to the argument that Canada First is definitely, absolutely a right-wing slogan, and it's like trying to establish, by saying Canada First, you're trying to establish an ethnic nationalist ethno-state, which does not align with Canadians, with Canada's identity. So what do you have to say to that?
I just have to say this. That's basically that, because it's just like, I don't know, like what does he want me to argue? Like it's retarded. It's like it's just culture war. Like Trump came up with America First, so that means that became a white nationalist slogan, and now like I can't say anything nationalistic about Canada. So like that's what I have to say.
All right, short and sweet. Anyone else wants to respond?
I just really want to push back on the fact that they're making the assumption that this is one what is a real Canadian. That technically Canada First is referring to a place. Realistically, like Canada is a country, it is a place. We live in Canada, you know. He doesn't even say Canadians first, he says Canada first. So from my perspective, that is more so like a we need to do better for Canada, the country, and all the people who live within Canada, regardless of ethnicity and all that. It's not about that. It's about doing better for Canada and the people who would live in Canada. It's not about I don't know. It's just, to me, it's not really about the extra stuff that they're assuming that it's about, right? Like there's assumptions that are being put on this from this person's perspective, that this is, about ethnic nationalism and what is a real Canadian, etc. And like it's just they're making assumptions on what this statement is really about. And I just don't think that those assumptions are necessarily a fair assessment. And just because Trump says America first doesn't mean that anyone saying their country first is from the same perspective as Trump saying it, because Trump is a different person. He has different perspectives. He has a different agenda. He is like this. It's not the same person. It's not like if we went if we were in China talking about China first, like would you be saying that this is, I don't know, like the same thing? It's just like or Thailand first or Brazil first. It's just like, yeah, it's just like, people say stuff like this, especially, I don't know if you've watched the Olympics, but like whenever I'm at watching the Olympics, I'm like, yeah, I'll go Canada, the whole time. Like, is that now? Because like that's patriotic. That's that could be nationalist. So like where do we draw the line? Is it just because he's saying it from a political perspective? So I don't know. It just seems like it's I feel like they're just looking for a reason to call him I don't know, like I feel like they're just trying to set him up as like the Canada's Trump, and it's like he's not Canada's Trump. Let's just get that clear. And also, yeah, I don't know. It's just like I just I don't know.
And also to defend Trump a little, when Trump says America first, it's very clearly not about race either, right? I don't know why like people are making this connection between Trump saying America first and establishing like a ethnic nationalism state or something like that. Like, where's the connection, right? Like, because all I've seen Trump do is do these tariffs, and tariffs don't care what color your skin is or anything like that. Like, none of Trump's policies has been trying to establish like an ethno state. Like, he's just saying America first because in his opinion, America's been like ripped off by all these countries, and America needs to get the minerals from Ukraine and get like concessions from Canada, which I understand that you guys disagree with that policy and you guys don't like it, but like to bring race into this is just really weird, and I don't get it, right? And also, just to re-emphasize the point that I brought up earlier, here's a man named John Smith, which I don't know if it's his real name, but maybe it's a nickname, maybe it's a fake name that he uses on the internet, but I'm gonna assume if your name is John Smith, then you're white. So it's like a white person talking to a podcast where 3 out of the 4 hosts are not white or people of color in Canada, and attempting to teach those people about multiculturalism, which I just find really funny. Dominic, your opinion?
I was gonna say
for
one
sure.
more thing actually. I was just like gonna add, like, when you they set up a mental block where it's like anybody who says Canada first can be called a racist. It's just like a weaponization of like language, like racist and that kind of stuff. Like weaponization of this kind of language that sets up for a really unhealthy debate. Now, like, nobody could ever say anything positive like Canada first ever again, or they're a racist. It's just stupid. That's the last thing I'd say.
Yeah, no, I'll actually like piggyback off that in a moment. But I think this type of person is one of those people who go on Yelp and just like have a reason to make negative comments about a restaurant or something. It's like you're never gonna win the arguments. No matter what you get through them, they're just gonna have their like really outrageous views and things. They just want to like pick a fight where they can pick a fight, and it's just outright ridiculous, I suppose. And again, there's nothing you can really do about it. And yeah, when I think of Canada first, it's not out of proportion. I don't think it's a race thing at all. I think it's simply just Canadians who live in the country of Canada. I never thought for a moment it was specifically for one race, like Caucasian per se. Like, I think it's just the whole nation as a whole. So I think this person's probably like a flat earther, like theorist, and you can't get through them. And that's just is what it is. And like, even if you were to meet this person real life at like a diner or something or a coffee shop and you have a conversation with him and you try to convince him otherwise, what he's saying is ridiculous. You just won't be able to get through it. So his opinion is his opinion, and I don't think we'll fix that. But no, I think it's crazy. Canada's Canada, not just Caucasianness. So
Yeah, and I totally agree with everything you guys said. And on that topic, there's actually a second comment on that same video, which I formulated a long X post regarding it. But let me just read you the comment, and then I'll go through my X post, and then I'll toss it back to you guys again. So the second comment, this person named God Ender X says, "Wow, you're so clever. There was a speech one time, and a guy said the thing, and he was a liberal," referring to Wilfrid Laurier, who said Canada first back like 100 years ago, right? Is like, oh, holy shit, you nailed it. I do find it quite hilarious when people like you think that Canada first includes you, because if you ask the Canada first crowd that isn't you, they would call you a foreigner and say that you're not welcome here. So here's my response to this person, right? So I just go through. This was a comment that I received on that video just to give a little bit of a context. But I said, in the video, I argued back that Canada First was, in fact, a phrase from a speech made by Wilfrid Laurier, a famous Liberal Prime Minister of Canada. And there's nothing alt-right about saying Canada First. And I have to say that the comments I got on that video were extremely disappointing, referring to this one and the one that we just talked about earlier. This person commented that it's funny that people like you would think that Canada First includes me. Well, why would it not include me? The only conclusion is that this person thinks that I'm not part of Canada. And let me take a wild guess why they would think that I'm not part of Canada. Could it be because of my race? For the record, I talk to the Canada First Canadians all the time, and I can tell you for a fact that they don't make race an issue, and that Canada First is not about someone's ethnicity. It's about keeping Canada strong and independent and caring about our own citizens, all of them, regardless of ethnicity, ahead of citizens of other countries, something that the liberals have forgotten, because the liberals are essentially, they're arguing, and I assume this person is maybe a liberal, maybe they're NDP, or they're at least very against Pierre Poilievre and the conservatives, right? So the liberals are all of a sudden against Canada First because I don't know why, but it implies that they don't want to put Canada first. But anyways, yeah, for the record, I talk to the Canada First Canadians all the time, and they don't make race an issue when it comes to Canada First. And further, pretty much all the racism that I've encountered in recent years are from leftists such as this. The left cannot fathom how a person of color in Canada could have conservative viewpoints. And by the way, I'm not even that conservative. I voted for left-leaning parties in my life way more than right-leaning parties, although I guess that's going to change from now on. So with the left, it's all about these subtle jabs about how you're a race traitor if you're a person of color who agrees with the right. And, you know, cut it out, stop it. You all look like clowns. And I put a picture of the comment. So what are you guys' response? Do you think my kind of rebuke or criticism is valid, or what do you think of that comment, and just what do you think of everything I said?
Yeah, I thought it was well said. I couldn't have said it really better than that. That's why I just gave him the middle finger, because I couldn't really say much more. But yeah, I mean, I just think that the current the current culture of debate on the left has become something that's just like chased us all out of it. Like, all of us always kind of at different degrees, but we all kind of talk about how we like mostly have voted for leftist parties our whole lives, and have felt like we're getting chased out of the left just because they debate in such a childish way. It's all about labeling and name calling, and they like set up these traps so that, like, if you say Canada First, now they can call you a white supremacist, and then you just defended Canada First, so they're calling you kind of like I guess the Asian Canadian version of an Uncle Tom, or whatever would be the right terminology for this context. But like they just set up traps, and they set up debates and use debate tactics that make it so that like most of us are kind of done talking to them and like just like walk away from their movement. And that's kind of, they've kind of marginalized themselves in a way that just by their own behavior. And a lot of it's online, but that online behavior comes out into real life often. In my own experience, I've kind of seen it.
Yeah, I think it's very frustrating the way that the left has started these sort of conversations, kind of to piggyback off what Sunil was saying, because like it's like generally speaking, I am pretty socially left leaning, but the second you have a differing opinion on any of these topics, for whatever reason, or even if you don't even necessarily have a differing opinion, but you're willing to question a agreed upon position, you immediately get attacked very aggressively, and I don't think that that's very compelling because obviously getting attacked, no one enjoys getting attacked in a debate or an argument or even a conversation, but like I feel like I remember a point in the past where the political parties were kind of like trying to convince you of what they had to offer and try and, let me bring you to my side. See, I am conservative. I'm going to talk to you about the economy. You like the economy, right? I'm the liberals. I'm going to talk to you about, social stuff is good. Why can't gay people get married? Like, and we're all going like, yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah, that's a good idea. And they're trying to convince you on who to vote for. And now it feels like if you were previously voting for one side, but then you disagree on one of the topics, so you're like, I don't like how the liberals are managing the economy. Now you are like, I don't know, the Antichrist. Like you're public enemy number one, and they're going to just trash you instead of try and convince you on how your perspective is incorrect and how you should consider a different point of view. It's just immediately to aggression rather than a discussion. And I find that that's very, very frustrating because I would much rather someone convince me on why, or give me a compelling argument. And even if I don't necessarily agree, I can at least understand their perspective. But it just feels like a lot of this turns into just kind of standing on a soapbox and yelling about how the other side is terrible, while not really communicating how your side is any good, because there's this base assumption that your side is good. And I'm not saying this is just the left that does this, but it's just like more recently I've noticed that the left has really leaned into this in the last few years. That's been making it considerably harder to really enjoy a lot of discussions with that people who are on that side but too deep, if that makes sense. So I just thought that kind of flows into this as well, which I kind of went off on a tangent there, but it's I feel like it was related.
Okay, yeah. I just think the entire situation is completely nuts, and that person just needs to reevaluate their perspectives for a moment. I don't think necessarily this whole situation was meant. How do I explain this into words? I just can't. I don't really understand as to why they would find any reason to jab you, just because you have a different political view on this whole situation. Because I don't even know what to say, but I think fundamentally it's just kind of what you guys were talking about. They kind of think, oh, left is good, so I'm always going to support the left no matter what. And if there's only a slight amount of disagreement, I'm going to completely jab on the person, rather than if you were to just completely reflect on your true beliefs, then you would realize where the true choices need to happen. And this is just hating for no reason instead of just reevaluating and assessing the situation properly. And it's total internet hate. And I guess what you said, Andy, was completely correct and everything. And yeah, there's nothing you could do with these people, honestly. It's just we gotta just ignore these comments and just move on. So
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And as I said, just re-emphasizing the point I said earlier, these like subtly racist jabs are really not helpful, right? So this person is implying that, oh, Canada First is racist, and people like you, if you support that opinion, if you support, the conservatives, Pierre Poilievre, whatever, then like, oh, they're gonna totally reject you because they're gonna call you a foreigner and say you're not real Canadian. Like, who's saying that, right? You're the only one who's saying that. Pierre is not saying that, and I've never heard of that from the conservative side when they're talking about Canada First or just at all. So it's just, yeah, like in my opinion, this kind of stuff is subtly racist, if not like outright racist, and it drives people away, right? Like it's like it's just, it comes from a disconnect where the left, not saying the entire left, but just a significant portion of the left here in Canada, they're like, oh, I like, if you're a person of color, then you should definitely vote for me because I'm gonna be like the DEI, like I'm gonna push DEI and help people of color and help, like, the people who are not the majority or whatever. So you should definitely support me, and if you don't, then you're a traitor to your entire, like, race or demographic, whatever it is. It's the implication, right? That's kind of what I'm getting at. And what I'm saying is that this type of, putting people into boxes, it's really working against the left. It's actually driving a lot of people away. And as I said, I'm socially pretty left leaning as well, believe it or not. But it certainly drove me away, and these types of comments are really not helpful. Sunil, you raised your hand.
Yeah, I have 2 points, but one just to add to what you were saying. Like, there's like an element of like them like coming and educating you and being like, "Oh, Mister like person of color, Mister like Asian man, do you know there's racists in this country, and I have to educate you on that." Like, it's like you don't even know how to navigate yourself through this country. It's like they just like assume that you just don't understand. You're ignorant because you don't know what's going on behind the scenes. So I just think that there's like an element of like, I don't know. I guess you use the word racism, but like it's condescending. It's a very condescending way of talking to people. So like when people have talked to me like that, it just doesn't come across the right way. It's not the right, like, just stop going to people of color and only talking about race. Like, you could talk about the weather too. You could talk about other things. You don't need to always educate us on race. If we want to actually talk about other things too, we don't want to just sit around talking about race all day. And then the other thing is that like, they remind me of people who are like not loyal to a party or loyal to like a political argument, but they're like loyal to a regime. Like they kind of it comes across that way, the way they talk, because it's so formulaic, and like they're following a formula, and then they say insert word, insert racist, insert sexist for whatever, and then they like weaponize whatever they're weaponizing, and then they insert the word that gets the other person in trouble, basically.
Makes sense. And we'll go through one more comment, and then we can maybe call it a day. So the last comment I wanted to go through today was, I believe this one was directed at Tristan. So I'm going to let Tristan go first and respond to it, and give him an opportunity to defend himself. So this was on the Mark Carney video, on the other one that blew up, where I believe, Tristan, you said something along the lines of you found Mark Carney moderately compelling. So this is actually the kind of, you pissed off the other side now. So now you pissed off the conservatives. So the conservatives are now pushing back against you, saying that, oh, like, you're stupid for saying that Carney is moderately compelling. So I just, again, I don't think this person watched the entire video, first of all. But even then, like, I wanted to give you an opportunity to kind of maybe clarify what you meant when you said you found a Mark Carney moderately compelling. Like, is he really that compelling enough to you for you to consider voting for him? Like, where do you stand on kind of the general election, assuming that Mark Carney is going to be the Liberal leader, which it seems like there's like a 98% chance of that happening right now. Yeah, what do you think of kind of where the political scene in Canada lies, and where do you stand on which candidate you like, assuming that Mark Carney does win the Liberal leadership? And just how would you like to defend yourself in general against this comment?
Yeah, so this person definitely did not watch the whole video. They watched that first 5 second thing where I was like, I don't even know if I said that I find him moderately compelling, or if I said that I think that he's moderately compelling, or something along the lines. I don't remember exactly what I specified, but the reason I was saying that wasn't because I found him compelling per se. It was that I can understand why other people, like, who would be in the voting booth, would find him more compelling. And if you follow in the video, I immediately followed up by a comparison between him and Justin Trudeau. I was actually saying more so that I found that I could see why people will find him more compelling than Justin Trudeau, because, you know, Justin Trudeau is he's not, like, he didn't exactly roll into Parliament with a resume of, you know, stuff that is sort of similar to being a prime minister, whereas at least Mark Carney, you know, he did work for the Bank of Canada and the Bank of England, I think it is, like, title wise is the UK equivalent to the Bank of Canada. So, like, he's at least been in some of these kind of more financial specific roles, like economist stuff. So, like, I was merely saying that I could understand why he might be seeing a spike in the polls. I wasn't trying to sell anyone on Mark Carney. I wasn't sitting here like, wow, Mark Carney, that's my boy. I'm gonna vote for him 3 times if I can. Nothing to that extent. I was just I mean, it's literally like they watched the first 5 seconds where I was like, oh, he's moderately compelling, without following the context on what I was actually saying, which is very much the comparison factor. It's like, I'm not, this was not a video where I was talking up Mark Carney's glory and how he was the best candidate this country needs. It was very much actually, I would say, relatively critical of Mark Carney. I would say, like, if you put this into a sentiment analysis, I think you would have come out with a slightly negative perception of him. And yet they somehow spun it to being positive of him. So, you know, I appreciate the right rolling in here to give us the alternative perspective of, hey, I've watched 5 seconds of your video. I've come to a 100% conclusion on what you're trying to say, and I have decided that you're stupid and I should let you know about it. Like, I'm sorry, man. Like, I can't fix your stupid either, because clearly you didn't watch enough of the video to know what the fuck I was saying.
You know that part where you said my boy Mark Carney? I'm gonna clip that exact part and use it as our intro for this week. So thanks for giving us that. It'll get us so much views, because then you'll get a bunch of people leaving angry comments who did not watch the entire segment.
I'm gonna get inundated. I'm gonna get both sides. I'm gonna have the libs coming in and seeing that and be like, yeah, and then they're gonna actually listen to me talk, and they're gonna be like, and then the right's gonna come in and be like, see, there's just the first bit, not watch anything else. I'm like, so I'm gonna be like completely inundated. I'm gonna be that guy, just gunfire on all sides, you know, standing in the middle.
Anything for the views, man. Listen, I think you're in a very good position, like, in terms of where you lie politically on this podcast, because, you know, we have we talked about this last week, actually, where how we're, you know, becoming a conservative podcast, and I'm trying to avoid like the becoming like a cringy conservative podcast. But let's face it, like, at this point, the Overton window has shifted a lot to the left, where a lot of people, including us, have felt a little bit left behind. But all things considered, I think maybe Tristan, you're like the J Cal equivalent, right? If we're the All In podcast, I'm the David Sachs, Sunil is the Chamath, Dom, you're the David Freeberg, who just wants to talk about science and doesn't give a shit about politics. And then Tristan, you're the J Cal, right? So I think it's good to have that balance, right? And you're probably in a good spot when you get angry comments from both the left and the right, which shows that you're probably the most centrist out of all of us. So congratulations on that.